In a historic United Nations session, one voice silenced the entire chamber. Not from Washington, not from Moscow, not from Beijing. It came from Africa, from a leader few expected to confront the global order so boldly. Burkina Faso's Captain Ibrahim Traoré, just 36 years old, issued an ultimatum to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. His demand? A public apology within 48 hours. His warning? Severe political and economic consequences across Africa. This moment shocked diplomats, rattled alliances, and ignited debate worldwide. But what exactly happened? Why did Traoré take this risk? And how could a 48-hour ultimatum reshape Africa's standing in global politics? To understand Traoré's explosive ultimatum, we must rewind. For decades, African nations have voiced frustration at being sidelined in global decision-making. Promises of equality from major powers often turned into unequal partnerships. Then came the spark. Reports surfaced that Israeli officials in private discussions dismissed the role of African states in international affairs, suggesting their voices carried little weight at the UN. When this leaked, it set off a firestorm across African capitals. Governments and citizens alike viewed it as not just disrespect, but as a dismissal of Africa's hard-won sovereignty. Into this storm stepped Traoré. Already popular across Africa for his fiery speeches against colonial influence, he saw an opportunity to amplify Africa's frustration on the world stage. September 12th, UN headquarters in New York. The chamber was packed, delegates expecting another routine session. But when Captain Traoré took the floor, the tone shifted. He spoke without hesitation, without notes, and with piercing intensity. Prime Minister Netanyahu, he declared, you have 48 hours to issue a public apology for your insults toward African nations. Failure to do so will result in collective disengagement from Israeli projects and partnerships across our continent. Gasps filled the chamber. This wasn't the careful, diplomatic language world leaders expected. This was raw, direct, uncompromising. Western diplomats shifted uneasily. Some scribbled frantic notes, others whispered. And yet, across Africa, people watching live erupted in cheers. The reactions were immediate and intense. In Tel Aviv, officials scrambled to respond. Israeli media warned that Africa, home to more than 1.4 billion people and vast natural resources, was not a region Israel could afford to alienate. In Washington and Brussels, there was concern. Western allies feared that Traoré's boldness might embolden other leaders to use ultimatums as tools in global diplomacy. Meanwhile, African capitals celebrated. From Dakar to Nairobi, radio talk shows praised Traoré as a new face of African defiance. Social media exploded with hashtags, #Africa demands respect, #Traoré ultimatum. For many Africans, this wasn't just about Netanyahu. It was about reclaiming dignity. But Traoré's bold stance carried risks. Some African economists warned, what if Israel retaliates? What if Western powers reduce aid or block trade deals? Others questioned, is this the right way to achieve diplomacy? Through ultimatums? Indeed, the ultimatum set a dangerous precedent. If ignored, it could weaken African credibility. If enforced, it could spark political and economic retaliation. And yet many argued Africa had little to lose. For too long, they said, global politics had treated Africa as a junior partner. Traoré's words were a line in the sand, a declaration, respect us or lose us. As the 48 hours ticked away, the world watched. Would Netanyahu respond? Would Israel dismiss the ultimatum? Would other African leaders join Traoré's call or distance themselves? Behind closed doors, diplomats scrambled. Phone lines buzzed. Analysts speculated, could this ultimatum fracture Israeli-African relations permanently? For the first time, Africa wasn't waiting passively. It was dictating terms. And that alone was historic. Whatever the outcome, Traoré's ultimatum marked a turning point. It showed that African voices can command the global stage, that ultimatums aren't just the domain of superpowers, and that respect, once demanded collectively, cannot be ignored. The UN chamber fell silent that day, but Africa's roar echoed across the world. The question now is not whether Traoré stunned the UN. He did. The question is, what comes after? Because once a continent demands respect, silence will never be an option.